So the news came out today. Democrats pass the Inflation Reduction Act, and of course, we know this is not going to do anything. And if anything, obviously, it's going to raise inflation, right? So it says here, breaking news: state Democrats just passed Inflation Reduction Act to bring down costs, reduce the deficit, and of course, invest in clean energies. It's the biggest climate action in American history, all paid for by making sure large corporations pay their fair share in tax. And it's important to understand corporations don't pay taxes, people pay taxes. Corporations collect taxes by raising prices that they'll then, obviously pass on to the consumer. And so moving forward, inflation is going to rise. You're going to see the cost of everything continue to move up as the Democrats are basically pretending like they're dealing with inflation. But the overwhelming issue moving forward is that inflation is going to keep on moving higher and higher and higher. And even though the percent of inflation year over year, so from comparing, 1 month last year to like for example, like comparing June of last year to June of this year, you'll see the percentage of inflation start to go down, but the prices will continue to rise. And so moving forward, the people who will be heavily impacted by this are going to be overwhelmingly going to be the poor. So how do you, and of course, Democrats pushed for minimum tax for businesses, right? So a minimum of 15%. So even if, say, for example, as a business owner, you could reduce your taxable, the money you pay in taxes by taking advantage of like certain tax breaks. You won't be able to do that because the minimum amount that you're going to pay is 15%. Now, of course, that percentage is going to be passed on to the customer because the businesses aren't, especially the big businesses. Now, smaller businesses, which is typically who this bill is going to impact, are going to go out of business. And so the purpose of this is to drive out small businesses and to increase the amount of fascism that you see in America. One of the easiest ways to kind of get around this is obviously don't be in debt. Live below your means, reduce your taxable income. Now it doesn't mean that and obviously you're going to have to lower your standard of living. They're going to make it harder for people to travel. They're going to make it harder because gasoline is going to continue to raise prices. It's going to continue to go up because of all of these different countries that are nationalizing their oil industries. Moving forward, the best thing that you can do is what I've always said: have a community and buy land. Buy land, grow food on that land, build homes and infrastructure on that land, and then live, basically with your community what you can produce. That will be the best way that you'll be able to limit the amount of money that you're making from, like having a job, going out and having a job, which will obviously, a lot of the money that you make will be pulled via taxation, as Joe Biden has stated that they're going to, I don't know how many billions of dollars that they're giving to the IRS, but they said that they want to increase the amount of IRS agents by 87,000. Of course, this is under the guise of doing this to tax the rich. And that's not going to happen. It's to tax you. They're coming for you. And like I've said, you look at the statistics, and there was a Republican who said the exact same thing too. I believe, what state was that? I think this was in Ohio. Ohio Republican that had made the same thing. So, IRS, of course, is now collecting guns. There was an article talking about how IRS agents are basically stockpiling weapons, right? IRS stockpiles more than 5 million rounds of ammunition. There was another article here talking about this from Forbes. IRS has 4,500 guns, 5 million rounds of ammunition. It says for paying taxes. But there's an article here, which I'll link below, right? It says the IRS says new funding won't mean more audits for middle income Americans, right? It says, but this person right here, I believe he was from Ohio. Where is it? No, here it is. Excuse me. This is the article here. Ohio Republican says middle class don't pay fair share in taxes, and this is true. Overwhelmingly, and of course he makes the point right here, and this is from Mike Gibson. This is a leading Republican Senate candidate for Ohio, said in a media event last fall that the middle class American don't pay any kind of fair share, which is true. right? It says of income taxes. It says the top 20% of income earners in the United States pay 82% of federal income tax. And if you do the math, and 45 to 50% don't pay income tax at all, you can see the middle class is not really paying any kind of fair share, depending upon how you do. And this is in relation to all the gimmies, right? You know, housing is a right, education is a right, Social Security is a right, childcare is a right. Well, who's going to pay for all this stuff, right? And so a lot of this stuff they just create the money. And so what the government is doing moving forward is this is why they're adding all of these agents. It's because overwhelmingly there's too many socialists. There's too many socialists. Countries cannot continue to move in this direction. It's going to collapse. And so America is not going to go to war with China. That's not going to happen. America would be stupid to go to war with China. They'll lose because they don't have the army and they don't have the infrastructure. They don't have the personnel to push back against China. They just don't. Regardless of American technology, China would beat America in a war. America don't have the people who are willing to fight for the country. I mean, just look at the countries. People just fucking hate America. You got all these Americans in the countries talking about America's systemically racist. Like, who are you going to pull? Now you have an all-time low recruitment. They can't find people, and most Americans, especially young people, are overweight or obese. So who are you going to pull from to fight? It's just not going to happen. That's why you see, what was it, the Chips for America Act? America is already planning to let Taiwan go. And the way that they're preparing, there was a couple of articles talking about, with Intel. Intel is going to be designing chips, and so they passed the America Chips Act. And Intel is building another factory in Italy for like $5 billion. They're building another one here in Ohio for like $20 billion. I don't know how it costs so much to build over here by comparison. Probably just because of the salaries maybe that they have to pay. I'm not quite sure how big the facility is going to be. But America is based, and it's going to take years for America to build up the infrastructure, because all of their infrastructure in terms of everything is imported, right? We don't make anything in America. We just export debt. That's the only thing that America does. And food. America produces one of the largest food producers. And so Americans aren't going to starve, but their cost of living is going to go up, right? Their standard of living is going to go down because more of that income is going to go to paying for food, because a lot of it is going to be homegrown. And that's why moving forward, like I've said, find a community, build land, grow your own food. You have all these preppers talking about go out and buy more. Consumption is not going to save you. Production is what will be of use. Or if the country goes the route of producing more children. If you have more children, you can grow the economy, and then you can then deal with the inflation. But the Democrats aren't moving forward, aren't trying to cause a recession. The Federal Reserve did not sell any of their balance sheet like they stated they were going to sell in June. This was supposed to happen in June, and they're continuing to expand their balance sheet. And so America is not going to go the way of a recession. I know you keep hearing all this talk about a recession. America is in a technical recession because of 2021, of all the stimulus that they were giving out. And so yes, when you go from 2021 where they're handing out stimmy checks to all these dipshits, and all these people aren't paying their rent, and they're paying their student loan, and they're not paying for their cell phones, they're not paying for whatever, all that money is going into the economy. And so of course, you're going to see the GDP go down when you compare a stimulus year to a non-stimulus year. It's obvious. But then you have all these idiots, talking about, oh, well, obviously we're in a recession, our GDP has come down. And that's why they can say, and they're like, well, you're redefining a recession. And they're not. It's because you're just comparing one year where you had stimulus checks out the ass, and then another year where there's no more stimulus. So of course, the economy can't grow from a year where the government was created fucking $10 trillion. It's just not going to happen. But again, everything sounds great for clicks and views and all that stuff, but people just aren't speaking the truth about what's going on. Overwhelmingly, what will collapse America is welfare. Overwhelmingly, what will collapse. And it's the people. The primary problem is the people. The Americans had decades of socialist practices in the country, right? From Social Security to education, you have all these things that are funded by the government, and they're not funded via taxation. I think last year during a stimulus year, I think America brought in 4 trillion in taxes. Healthcare alone is 3 trillion annually. Annually, America spends 3 trillion just on healthcare. It's not sustainable, especially moving forward, where you're going to see more countries go the route of siding with Russia and China because they're producers. So who are they going to side with? The only thing they're worried about with America is whether America is going to go to war with them. America can't go to war with the world. And so moving forward, people are going to realize, well, if I don't do things America's way, they're going to do what they did to Russia, right? They're going to kick us off the SWIFT system. And so now Turkey just allied itself with Russia, and they're going, I forgot what the name of the system is called, but I'll try to find the article and I'll link it across, where Russia has their own monetary system where they can exchange between the banks, just like how America in the West has the SWIFT system. China and the BRICS nations are creating their own system, and so that's going to rival. It's going to rival the dollar. And so who are these nations going to side with? Whatever direction the route goes, it's going to lead to shortages in America, and you're going to see the standard of living start to go down. You want to stay out of the cities. It's very important. You want to stay out of the cities because that's where a lot of the control and the shortage. That's why you hear all these talks about smart cities and digital passports. And if they go the route of digital currency, which I don't think currently they have, otherwise there would be no reason to add all of these IRS people. Because if you have a digital currency, it doesn't really matter, because the government will be able to track you and tax you and remove your funds, etc. But if you're not going that route, then you need IRS agents. Anyway, the most important thing, which I always stress in all of my videos, is have a community and buy land. Even if you only buy half an acre or an acre, that's what I'm looking to do this year. I'm going to go out and buy maybe 15 or 20 acres and then start producing on the land. You want to have an exit strategy if possible. If possible, you want to have some land, maybe, like in South America, Mexico somewhere, where there's a bit more of a free market, just in case things go tits up in America. And if it does go that route and the government turns on the people, I mean, it is what it is. It's the tail end of an empire, and you have to prepare for it. And it's not something like you just kind of like. It's not like all of a sudden and then a straight shot down. It's gradual. It's a gradual decline. And so this is what we're seeing. We're seeing the government preparing for the gradual decline. They already saw what happened in Sri Lanka. They see what's going on in Ecuador. They see what's going on in all these different countries. There's rioting going around in many countries. There's many countries where the people are rioting because of the cost of living, because of the price of food and the price of gas. And they're enacting shortages, and they're rationing gasoline. In some places, the people can't afford food. And like in Argentina, the people are rioting. There's many countries where people are rioting right now. They don't show it because they don't want you to get any ideas about what to do when the shit hits the fan. But when it does, you want to have a community. You can't be a lone wolf. It's not going to happen. People will find you and they either enslave you, kill you, and take your shit. You have to have a community of like-minded individuals who are willing to work and have your own land. And you're going to have to learn to barter. And if the government goes the route of a central bank digital currency, you're definitely going to have to go the route of learning to barter, because that's the only way you'll be able to get around a central bank digital currency, because the government will turn off your money if you go against the government, or if you go to a rally, if you try to, push for something else that the government is against, they'll just turn your money off and then you're asked out. And so that's why you have to have your own land, and that's why you have to have a skill. Most importantly, find a trade. You still have time while there's still money out there. You have to have a skill. You have to have a trade. You have to have a skill that you can barter. You might be able to trade that for food, or trade that for land. Trade that for, if you go the route of digital-based currency, you're going to be asked out. But it is what it is. I'm going to leave it here. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.